how's it going? This is Declan Shalvey here with Rory McConville and Joe Palmer. And we were here just to talk about Time Before Time, which I got my copy just a mere 2 hours ago.
Yay, they came.
Glad you picked up your cover as well. Not
I opened the box. I think I must be due another one because I ordered. It's thick, it's thick issue, so I think there's more coming. I don't think I've got the other ones yet, but it is the most important one actually.
Obviously, yeah.
But I didn't check the rest of the box. I was just too excited to look at it. Yeah, it turned out great, guys. I don't know what no one's listening, so what do you guys think?
I'm really pleased with how it came out. Did you notice the slight color problem on one of the pages?
I didn't. Which one?
Oh. So if you go to bang in the middle, so the club scene with the four panels.
Yeah.
It's
there's a
there's
slight
like a white
shift.
outline. There's like a white outline on everything. But the one thing that was weird about that was on the John Paul Leon cover, that color issue was not there. So I don't know what happened. I don't know whether it was I don't know whether it was
it happens
thing
with Marvel a lot. If you look at it, I think it might have something to do with the colors themselves. Sometimes might ask Chris about it, but it's like if you're doing Daredevil at Marvel, then you just be prepared that there's going to be a shift on the red.
Okay.
It seems to be a specific problem with red, and I think maybe because these colors are so intense. But I see. I wasn't looking for it, but I see it.
It's just slightly offset on everything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
it's no big deal. It's just something that might need.
It's
to be
interesting. It just happened on that one page.
I know. I was really surprised
because it doesn't happen. Because with the middle page, it will be printed on one plate.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. It doesn't happen on the other page. Anyway, this is the kind of amazing stuff.
It's proper inside baseball. It's for that's seriously a minor issue. Aside from that, looks great to me. So
yeah, well spotted though. I was. I don't know. I'm just happy with the package of it. It's kind of it's a weird thing. It's a very inside baseball thing to talk about. But it's one of the reasons why I wanted to have that inside spread is I like it when you pick up a book and you know what the book is.
Mm-hmm.
You'd recognize the art, but it's not just about the artist, or it's it's when you David Ayer's Seeds doesn't look like Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Now it's not. I know that he's doing a different style and stuff, but still, I like when you pick up a book and it's like Saga, or it's not just another Fiona Staples book.
Also, if the issue should happen to fall open in front of someone that's never read it, it's non-spoilery, and you get a really good sense of what the book's about. So
yeah, true.
It's,
how are you feeling? Because this is Rising in Blood didn't. Oh, sorry, it did get printed actually. So you do have the first comic, but because you did that as issues and then it was printed as a book, which came out very nice actually. Are you? I hope you're pleased anyway.
Well, this is my first American floppy, as it is.
Does that matter to you at all?
It doesn't matter in the slightest in terms of the format, but it's still cool.
Yeah.
It's I'm not a big singles collector, but it's a nice feeling. It's knowing that's going to be out there in people's hands is cool. It's really cool.
You wanted an image. You wanted to do an image book though, didn't you?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, as I've said in the past, I think that's if I had a dream about working in American comics, it would certainly be that's where I would hope to fall.
And how come? What is it because you're a Mignola fan? Is it what's
why? Because of the Mignola thing.
Because I know you're a fan of Mignola. That's somebody who did American monthly books. Yeah. Because in my experience, more British guys I know my age, it's more about 2000 AD. Culturally, that's just kind of what they grew up on more. So some will have an attachment to something. I grew up in the west of Ireland.
Yeah.
2000 AD was way more accessible to me, but it was American comics. I love the superhero stuff. So it's weird, the stuff that you gain an attachment to from a young age, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely very attached to things at a young age. My dad he's a big comic collector, and he exposed me to like a huge broad range of stuff. So I was exposed to like European stuff, American superheroes, and the alternative stuff. You know, he was into Robert Crumb and Marvel, do you know what I mean? So
Right,
like,
okay.
I really got, and loads of Japanese comics as well. So from like really young, I was exposed to a whole bunch of different stuff. As a really young kid, it was all about superheroes. Like I think like most young boys, like that was my thing. But I just completely lost interest in the subject matter, and like, whilst it would be fun to draw those characters that like I did love as a child, like maybe once, I just can't see that being something I want to spend my time doing.
You hear that, Marvel? Hands off.
It would have to, like, I would either have to write it myself, or the story would have to be so engaging that I would want to, you know, put some time in. Aside from doing like, you know, a one shot, I would totally be, you know, up for that. But it's not like high on my bucket list at all. If it's
whereas,
on there.
Whereas doing an image book was.
That's for sure on there. Yeah, I mean, like, of the comics from the American market, I mean, that is pretty much all I read. So you know, aside from one or two other titles which I've only drifted towards because of the art team, it's pretty much, yeah, American stuff is, it's all image basically.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can see, like, you know, I can see that your work has a lot of eclectic kind of influences. You know, I know I say Mignola, and that's what a lot of people like when they're seeing Time Before Time is kind of the first thing to say. And I get it, like, but I mean, just because there's high contrast shapes doesn't mean Mignola, you know. There's
it's just a point of reference, you know. I'm not offended by it. I love Mike Mignola, and he's definitely been a huge influence, but it's not like,
it's better being compared to somebody's shit.
Yeah, for sure. But you know, I also don't hold it against people that that's the only framework that they've got to, you know, draw for comparison. It's just that's their knowledge base. So
yeah, sure.
You know,
so
cool.
like I don't know, Rory, can you think of people who they've compared him to? Like I've heard Paul Grist is one. I've been saying mixing Mignola and Canetti, because like I think what people don't appreciate is how stylized your forms and figures get, because it's on the surface it's like blocky, but when you actually kind of look at the underlying drawing, is quite stylized and cartooned in a very particular way, you know.
Yeah, it's all about shapes. Like that's the one thing I've learned by drawing for a really long time, is what I'm really interested in is shape, and yeah.
And what was the first story? So you did a story after you both won the 2018 Thought Bubble competition. You did a story together. I haven't read it. Like, is it terrible?
What?
I like the story.
You haven't read it,
Rory.
I don't think I have. No.
How dare you?
How do you feel about that story now, Rory? I like the story.
I know. I still. Yeah. Maybe that just means I've peaked creatively. Like 5 years ago.
You'd been writing for a good while though at that stage. Like, you were probably writing longer than Joe had been drawing, to be fair. Like in a getting work published and seen and stuff, like, I imagine. Because you'd like a graphic novel under your belt, you'd like, you know.
Yeah, I suppose. But I mean, that was kind of small pressy as well at the same time. I don't know, because Joe, how long have you been? When was the first thing you had out?
Like, small press stuff was probably 2013. So yeah.
What was that? What did you start out?
Someone asked me that the other day, and I don't remember the first like publication that I was in, but shortly after that, I do remember Futurequake. They're like a small magazine. Yeah. Rory, I know you've done some stuff in there as well.
Yeah.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Takes a long time to come out.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
I did a cover for them once. I was I did a convention in Scotland, and I met the lads there. So that's it. Like,
No,
if I meet you, I'll probably do a cover for you.
The guy who runs it, Dave, he's a really good guy, and you know, he's really enthusiastic about helping people see their work in print.
And look, case in point, you did Future Quake, and that led you to 2000 AD. And I guess I didn't realize you hadn't. I thought I'd assumed you had done more 2000 AD work than you did. Like you said,
it's just because I used it as the credit, right? I mean, it's a published credit, so and if you don't say how much work you've actually done, then people just assume whatever. So
well, also like. You can only say, no matter how much 2000 AD work you do, you can only say 2000 AD unless it's like a specific.
Unless it's Judge Dredd, basically.
Unless it's Judge Dredd, or unless like it's one of those, you know, commissioned original stories.
Yeah.
You know that you worked on for ages. Like, but those are the kind of only. Otherwise, it's like it doesn't really matter how much Judge Dredd you do. Judge Dredd is the credit because they're anthology stories, you know.
Absolutely, but even, as you know, even if you've done a Judge Dredd story, that story might only be 5 pages. You know what I mean? So it's still like. There's a pretty wide margin for how much you've actually done for them. So,
and did you grow up with 2000 AD being?
I mean, as I said about my dad, I mean, he has been religiously. I think he's got every issue. I mean, to this day, he buys them but doesn't read them. He literally just flicks through because.
Joe's not in this one.
It was definitely around. Just didn't like. It didn't like the era of 2000 AD that really connected with me disappeared quite quickly. So by the sort of like the first half of the 2000s, I just kind of lost interest. You know what I mean? But in
where to be into it, I just like my super like it's weird. Like now it's the type of thing I'd be into. You know, like scathing commentary or dystopian sci-fi or whatever. Totally would be in my bag now, but as a kid I was just like I just like my moral
just over the head
doing the right thing stories but I think you probably had more of an influence 2000 AD influence, Rory, did you?
I mean, maybe we'll have to cut this out, but this is like, I mean, I never actually read 2000 AD before I started writing for it.
Hey, look, as if it helps you all, like with Moon Knight, I kept getting asked that, like it's like like I didn't give a crap about Moon Knight. I had never read it. I'd read like the Sienkiewicz stuff, but like in passing, and a couple of other things, but like I didn't care. I didn't care at all, which is actually quite liberating because like. If it was a character I was mad about, I got to work on Batman and I froze. But like Moon Knight was like, we're just gonna. Who cares? No one cares about Moon Knight. Turns out a lot of people did. But same with Deadpool. I turned Deadpool down when I first got it because I was like, I don't want to draw that. No interest. But it turned out to be great. Like so and sometimes it's good. Like you see, some people are so much fans of the material that they just can't get past being a fan. It happens a lot. So if anything, 2008 should thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
By the way, sorry.
No, go on.
I should probably just start talking about the book at least. What was it? So as you know, Joe, me and Rory had been like basically tinkering on this for ages. Like, what was it? What was it that you liked about it when we pitched it to you? Was it like, oh, this will pay money? Fine.
Well, I mean, it being a job I can't lie, that was definitely a draw. I didn't have any work, so I was hardly going to turn it down. But from
encouraging,
great. Like we just started at the bottom.
Yeah.
I think you should probably cut that out. Like,
no, it's okay. I don't like. I mean, because I see things from like because we had, as you know, we were talking to somebody before you, and we did a pitch that we would look great, and we fully intended to do it with himself, and he just became unavailable. And like I could have gone to him and was like, look man, you said you do it, this isn't okay, but like he got like a big gig, and you can't go like, hey, can you take this
this pitch that hasn't been accepted by anyone.
And just hope it works out, or can you take this really good page rate at one of the big two? I can't, as a freelance artist, I can't go like, you shouldn't do that, like do it, which sucked, but like there's no point trying to sabotage somebody just for the sake of like, I'm sure they'd really do a good job in a book if you make them not take a really well-paying job. But like but I remember when, I think it was when my friend Owen Marin showed me her stuff, I was like, this guy's great. Like, because this is when Rory was looking for somebody on time, Write It in Blood, and I was I kind of lose my mind when I see somebody who's really, really good and not on anything. It drives me insane. You know, it's like, people need good, talented people, and here's a good, talented person. You know, I mean, I didn't know if you were like nice or anything like that, and but you were good. And I personally just like putting those two things together, like opportunity and talent, and let that go happen. So I was delighted that you did Write It in Blood. It looked great, but it just worked out timing wise with Time Before Time. But like, there was no guarantee you'd do it. Like I this is where you can come in and say there was things beyond the money.
There most definitely was. So I mean, I think it's important to state, like, Write It in Blood, in hindsight, I'm going to say this, but it may sound a bit weird. I mean, I think personally, from where I stand now, I think I was totally, in many ways, the wrong artist for that book, which is both interesting and was a great learning experience for me as a result. Because I learned by doing that book that I have no interest in representing the real world in a realistic fashion. And Write It in Blood, the way that I draw it, is not that realistic from a certain point of view. But that's about as realistic as I ever want to go. And yeah, it was a massive, like, learning experience. It was really painful drawing that book. I mean, that's the honest truth.
Just the writing?
Just the meticulous referencing in order to keep everything as consistent as I thought the story deserved. Let's put it that way. Okay. Because it's so much a story that benefits from being grounded. Sure. I wanted to give it the absolute best that I could. You know what I mean? What I was capable of. But through it,
the idea for that was that it was going to be an Image comic, and you're saying you wanted to do it. So you wanted to do the best you.
I wanted to do the best job. I mean, that's always the case. I always, that's always the mindset I into something with. Whether or not I succeed is another thing. But yeah, I mean, it was. Yeah, it took me doing that to get to the point where I sort of learned enough about myself to know what direction I needed to go in afterwards. And
well, I mean,
so
sorry, I don't mean to talk over you.
No, go for
it. It's one thing I think really helps you as a creator is knowing what you like and what you don't like. You know, like, I quite like wide panels.
Yeah,
and I learned that from having to work in, work in different grids, and doing satellite panels for early superhero stuff, maybe on Thunderbolts and stuff, and it all works. But I realized, like, it's actually not how I like to tell stories. And like, doing, you learn from mistakes, but I think you also learn from, like, seeing how things gel with you or push against you, and it helps sharpen your sword, as it were, of figuring out, like, what you kind of, where to point your best efforts, and just pushing aside all the stuff that, like, isn't going to work or doesn't. I remember there was one time I was given a script by Al Ewing, and I turned it down because it was like a kind of a Mad magazine type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I read the script, and I just couldn't figure out how I was going to do it, not with, like, how I like to tell stories. And the editor was great, and it's not a dig against Al. Al is clearly an amazing writer. I was just like, this isn't the right thing for me. I'm not. This isn't clicking for me, and I don't want to do a bad job on this, so I'm just going to, like, pass.
Yeah.
Because I think I just knew I wasn't going to do a good job on it. So, and that's it's good to know that. It's good to have a good sense of, like, what is going to work for you and what isn't going to work for you.
For sure. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, to sort of jump ahead to, you know, you guys offering to work for me to work on the pitch. I mean, it was exactly what I was looking for, really, you know. And also the stage that I was at when I did that pitch, it was definitely 1 foot in sort of the way that I was drawing Right in Blood, and 1 foot in the direction that I wanted to go. You know, I still wasn't sort of as far over as I am now.
It's like hugely different in like tone.
If you look at like the pitch pages for Time Before Time, which ended up being some of the pages in the first issue, they're much more similar in terms of like me trying to rein myself in. It's just more of a like commercial look. That's how I would describe it. Okay. It's using reference in a certain way that is very meticulous. It's me being a complete bag of nerves, basically, which is not. It's not a fun way to do the job.
But like, I mean, you know, better I think that than say if you'd started on Time Before Time, because like like it's exhausting to continuously be coming up with new backgrounds, you know, and like especially with the future stuff, you're generating new, imagining new things all the time. That's exhausting. That's why, like, you know, I've joked like, it's like I'd never draw this thing. It's just too much work. Work on the like basic level of like environments, you know. I'm joking. Like it's I think something like this would for me be ambitious to draw. But I quite like the kind of tactile nature of it all. Like we were saying in interviews, like me and Rory were saying, like interviews where Looper was a touchstone, just in that it was, you know, grounded, it was dirty, it was like, it wasn't slick, you know, it wasn't Star Trek or anything like that.
Yeah,
you know?
For sure.
Tangible, you know, and I think that's in you. I know you said like Looper wasn't a thing for you at all, but I like that's in there anyway, you know, how you did it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I definitely lean it just in terms of personally what I like. I like that type of science fiction. You know, grubby, grimy, not necessarily like the future is bright.
But I think that's
aside from Star Trek.
I love Star Trek. I'm a huge Star Trek fan. But like drawing,
you never really see Earth that much. Do you know what I mean?
Well, you love it when you do sometimes. You know, it's always great. You see it on DS9 a couple of times and things like that. But I mean, what I like about Star Trek is it's optimistic and hopeful, and that's good. But like the Roddenberry aesthetic is super slick and clean. Everything is, famously, the actors had back problems on the first season of The Next Generation because they were so tight that they were like causing problems for the actors. But like, I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, but like I quite like the aesthetic of it, like that it's all stuff batched together and clamped. And it's one thing when we were working on Injection is whenever there was Warren knew I hate drawing smooth, clean technology. So like it always had to be cobbled together because it's just more fun to kind of draw.
Yeah, I mean, certainly it aligns more with how I draw. I want to draw as little with a ruler as possible.
Same, yeah.
And it just lends itself to that. So from that perspective, the backgrounds in Time Before Time are a breeze because I don't have to use a ruler ever. So, and I can just make it up. I can literally make it up, and I have to use like a ton of reference.
I can see you some, like I'm looking at some future backgrounds, and I can tell like that's part of a bottling plant in Chicago or something. You know, I can
possibly.
tell,
I mean, there's in some of the establishments.
I like that it feels like it's you know, built in on top of existing things over time, rather than like it's all fancy skyscrapers. You know.
Yeah. But the amazing thing about this book is you've got the leeway to sort of look at something, take a piece of it, and then I you know, because I've got a short attention span, I can literally just give up on the reference and just start just messing shapes on top of it and just clamping stuff to the top as well.
No, I was talking to my housemate, and she's writing and drawing a graphic novel at the moment, and she's a very interesting way of working where it's all basically this kind of big board, but like she's drawing maps for locations and stuff, and I was like, good luck. Like, you know, for me it's like you know, I'll create a geography in the layouts of where things are roughly, you know, make sure that like the TV is here and the couch is there and there's a picture frame, so when I when you're looking at another character, you see a bit of the picture frame, and the reader can connect where they are in the scene. But like, you know, it's very rare I'm going to draw like a map of what everything is in a space. Like who's
absolutely,
time for that? You know?
But that is the kind of thing that I was doing on Writing in Blood that was driving me crazy, because I mean, and to be fair, I think, you know, it has that sort of you know, cinematic look, for lack of a better word, because of that meticulous shot planning. You know, I mapped out every location that is in that book, and I've worked out what it looks like from most angles. And yeah, I think that it benefits from a certain sort of comic book realism.
And what I like about another thing I like about our book is like, I really liked what Chris did with the colors on Write It in Blood, where like it was very restrained. It knew not to, you know, there's no one in doing blending or painting on your work.
Yeah,
it's not necessary. But there was still, even though like the locations were fairly like pedestrian, you know, houses, cars, things like that, there'll be these lovely moments of like, you know, emotional color, like bright yellows in a fight scene or something. I just thought it worked so well with your work too, in that you know, you're talking about shape. Well, shape and color are so well used in that, you know. And I was curious.
I think, I mean, what really grabs me about the way Chris colors my work is he you know, doesn't really color naturalistically. Do you know what I mean? He colors for story beats, which is exactly the way I think color works best with my work. And yeah, just seeing some of the choices he makes is very cool. It's just totally not what I would picture. And I think that's the best kind of collaboration, right? Because you just sort of
big time.
let go, and just like the pages come back, and you're like, wow, what the hell?
It's good you have that attitude, because there are some people who are like, this isn't, you know, because like I used to share a studio with a colorist, and you'd get notes back from artists who were like, you know, this isn't what I was thinking, and you're like, well, how the fuck are they supposed to read your mind? Like, you know, like,
I mean,
specifically,
I mean, I have to be honest, that's what pops into my head when I first see colors back, for sure, because I want that kind of control over my work. However, I'm not a complete arsehole. Like, I don't want to make Chris's life that difficult. And also, I'm quite happy to just let it go after that point. You know, I certainly don't want to color this book myself. And Chris can do a far quicker job, and probably a better job with the colors that I can. So I'm happy, more than happy for him to take over.
I think it's the benefit of working with a good colorist is they'll come back with stuff that you wouldn't have done, but like, that's not a bad thing, you know.
For sure. Yeah.
I've seen some artists who color themselves and it's muck, you know. Some big artists, and I see them color themselves. I'm like, there was one in question, I'll dance around the name, but like, they did a book with my studio partner, and they just endless notes, and it didn't make it any better. It just made it different. And then I saw them color their own thing next. I'm like, well, this looks like shit. Like, so like, it's just, some people have an idea of what they think they want, and it's not what they want, and therefore it's bad. But like, I've learned, if you're working with somebody who's good, they're going to come up with stuff that you never would have thought of, which is great. Like, same with writing. Like, you know, I said before, it's kind of weird. I feel like me and Rory collaborate more than say you and I do.
Yeah.
Because we just tend to kind of hand it over. And me and him, and if he's still here, I assume, kind of.
Yeah, we should really bring Rory in. Like,
I'm fine.
I'm actually kind of dozing off to sleep as this. So.
You know, I find that like bouncing things off each other, I think, has gotten to stuff that's better than what we would have done independently, which is good. I'm glad. And I think it's the same with art and color, and with writing and art too, that as the stage goes, you need to give somebody room to actually contribute rather than just fulfill the stage, as it were, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And I just don't want to be that kind of controlling person. You know, if it was my thing, if it was my story, if I felt that kind of ownership over it, which I do not, then yeah, I would be more inclined to be, well, I just wouldn't hire a colorist, you know what I mean? I know how much of a painful job that would be for someone to take on, so I'd just do it myself. And then you get, like, you know, good or bad, you get what you've got in your head. So, you know.
Rory, since you are still awake,
yeah, for now,
what do you? I mean, I know it clearly it's a different process because, like, you did, you did Write in Blood on your own, but like writing something that's so with Write in Blood, you wanted to do. I know you want to do something like bigger than like a 6-page, like short story, and you're getting to do that again, but ideally with a much larger, say, palette, or canvas, I should say. Wrong analogy there, but you're also hindered by having a co-writer. So, like, what has this experience been like creatively, like good or bad?
Well, I mean, it's not over yet, so I suppose I can't give a full estimation. I mean, it's been it's been weird in some ways, I would say. Like, as in, it's something I've never done before. So I think it's like there are times when it feels good and sometimes when it feels bad. But I think overall, it's definitely been like it's helped me, I think, grow as a writer a bit. Definitely. How have you felt it?
Yeah, I mean, I think like there was a lot of dancing around each other at first because we didn't want it to be a case where like I was just stamping my name on it, even though it could have easily have done. It could have been that because you were so proactive and even going over the outline now for the second arc, there's just so much in there that's completely you, and then I had a little bit of an inferiority complex because you've written so much more than me, even though like I have a higher profile. So I'm like, there were times where I'm like, when I handed in you'd change, I'm like, am I not doing a good job? Even though like I know I'm cocky as fuck with other stuff, but like, wanting to make sure you were writing what you wanted to write, but also I was developing too. This isn't supposed to be a vanity project for myself. I want to make a book, so I think that was kind of tough for me at first. But I think it's when I stopped being insecure about it and learned to let go to the degree where let you actually just like get a lot of the kind of just a lot of the work, like the hardest part for me is finding the time to sit down and write. And like you just dig in a way which like I tend to kind of write a lot looser and then dig in where I need to, whereas you just seem to just like sit in it and just keep digging material. Like I'm much more of a lighter touch, I think, writing wise, whereas you do a lot of developing, I think. But like that's great because it just makes me look good. I got an email from one of my favorite creators, and he complimented my writing in A Time Before Time, and I was thinking, it's probably Rory's bits, But no, it has been interesting, and it's been a great way to like I just opened the box today. It's like I have a new image book. Like I love Image Comics. I love what they do.
I hope you're forwarding that email to Rory.
No, he just replies saying like, "Thank you."
Oh, thanks very much.
I completely made it about myself.
Pocket the credit, just straight away.
But like I'm super proud to have another Image comic book, like and I like that. I think I was saying that Forbidden Planet thing we did. Like I like making things. I like building things, and I like this book couldn't have been made. Like this book couldn't have been made without me. Like I know that much. So I don't have that much inferiority complex. But but I love being a part of something that I think is a cool fucking book. If it was just a boring owl book or whatever that was farted out, it'd be another thing. But I think we got something pretty cool here. So I'm dead proud of it. Like, and I was talking about I think I said on the other call about pregnancy brain. Did I mention? Yeah. Like it's from the writing point of view, like we try like basically isolate you from a lot of like the ins and outs of like dates and things when need to be done, because I know from drawing stuff like you just don't need that in your head. It's better just concentrate on the work. And it has been a lot of work, even between. I'm glad it's been me and Rory, because it's just been a lot of work just getting it all out there, stuff prepared. I've had the benefit of like knowing when things need to be in and that type of stuff, and I also have the benefit of saying to Rory, could you do this? So it's kind of worked out okay. But I don't know, like what do you guys think now? I mean, is it any different now having done this monthly book with me than say doing your kind of self-contained graphic novel.
It's a very different experience from my point of view. Did you want to go, Rory?
No, you can go first.
Okay. I mean, just this definitely, because it's not an original graphic novel, this feels like it's got a lot more eyes on it, and that is partly to do with the fact that you're involved, Deck, and it's partly because it's single issues, right? So it's just more of a sort of, just feels like it's got more heat.
I mean, I think that is true. I talked to a retailer one time when I brought out Savage Town, and they were like, "Oh, like it looked good, but like it's a graphic novel, so it's a lot more expensive for retailers to take a chance."
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
you know, it's like $17 or $15, whatever it is. They can go much deeper in single issues because it's not as much of an investment to try like get 10 copies, say. I was aware of that, you know. So that's definitely. I mean, I'm sure my name and you know, like me doing the covers. The reason I'm doing the covers is like, well, one is the excuse to do covers, and I don't have to draw a whole book. But there's a commercial aspect to it, you know. I'm sure it helps. Yeah, being a single issue, I think people can take a punt on. What is it? It's $3.99 and 31 pages of story. Like it's the point was to try and make something that like it's easy for you to buy it because it's a lot of content for something new and exciting at a reasonable price.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you know, just from a reader point of view, it's exciting. The prospect of a new series, I mean, it could be anything, right? To someone who doesn't know anything about it. It could be anything, and it could go anywhere, and it could be however long. Do you know what I mean? Especially an ongoing.
Whereas, well, with White and Blood came out, like
it's just there's no more of that, right? So you're either going to look at it and be interested, or you're not. You're not going to, you know, let it sort of breathe in the air and then, you know, just see what people are saying and stuff like that. It's just not as much buzz. That is the truth. There's not as much buzz about graphic novels, not from, you know, the American market, sort of direct market. Anyway.
Everyone's always raving about how big graphic novels are now, and it is true, but like it's not ubiquitously true. You know, it's not like, oh, graphic novel, that's a great way to like make loads of money. It's like,
no, I mean, it depends on the book, obviously. I mean, there's some notable examples that are doing very well in the book market right now, and they're basically not even in comic shops. You know, they're eclipsing the sales as well. But yeah, I mean, we're obviously doing very different. I mean, it's just adult stuff. Adult stuff is just if you're presenting it to the direct market, then it's already a niche market, being the direct market. So you know, you're sort of heading way into the niche weeds with doing a graphic novel.
It's funny though, like, because similar with like Right and Blood, and it's funny that like me and Rory were both kind of doing not a similar book, but like there were, you know,
a stripped down crime story. Right?
I mean, and like as I said to him, is like, this is not a booming market. You know, if you're Sean Phillips and Ed Brubaker, you're grand. Otherwise, it's a tough sell. But like
you told me that halfway in though.
but the important thing with that though was that to like being honest, like, you know, I was telling you, just do the book you want to do. You know, like it's not 2000 AD. You should do a book. Like I think we were talking about it. I said don't do a sci-fi thing because that's
true. You did actually say that.
You know, now you could have done a sci-fi thing, but like I think that would have maybe pigeonholed you a bit more as a sci-fi guy who has never seen any sci-fi films. Whereas I think
Star Trek is not the entirety of sci-fi.
It is not, but any other references I've dropped, you haven't seen Quantum Leap. Anyway, never mind. Okay.
Quantum Leap is not exactly high on the watch list.
Joe, watch it, all right?
Zach, we're from different eras. Like
we are, unfortunately.
Watch The Terminator before Quantum Leap, please.
Yeah, okay, that is one I have to watch.
Yeah.
But sorry, what was I saying? But it's funny. But like that type of story in any other medium is huge, like film, TV, novels.
Yeah,
not in comics. Whereas like the funny thing is, you know, with Time Before Time, I know what was in my mind is I wanted to make a mainstream comic, as in, you know, not X-Men or something, but like an idea that comic fans would get into and make something that's a good comic, you know. But like, if you were to pitch, you know, if I was to pitch like an Irish publisher, a time travel book instead of whatever, like, no, it never happened. You know, it's too heavy genre stuff. but like comics is actually very in on genre ideas. And I guess TV and stuff is becoming like that now as well. But it's just it just feels like way more of like something that could be a good comic that could find an audience, rather than say something like Ride and Blood or Bog Bodies, which are very much self-contained stories, you know. But again, as a storyteller, for lack of a better phrase, you know, I wanted to do something that was more long form. As a writer, I've done stuff that's like stops and ends, and that's great. But like, I want to try and learn and develop, and this is a great way to do it. But sorry, Rory, you didn't get a chance to respond there when I asked about how you feel about this project as opposed to what Red and Blood was like.
Yeah, what was the exact question again?
You're expecting me to listen to myself.
Yeah, it was what was the experience like of having a single issue come out versus the.
Yeah, I mean,
but also maybe like having somebody like me in front of it, where like my argument to you is like, I think it could do well if I'm attached to it. It'll help, but also like maybe that's been a pain in the arse. I don't know.
I mean, it's always a pain in the arse, isn't it? I think one of the big things is obviously when we were doing Ride in Blood, there was a long period while we were making it where we didn't know if it was actually going to come out.
Yeah.
Whereas with Time Before Time, for the most part, I mean, there was a lot of work done beforehand. But in terms of like Joe's work on it, by the time he was seriously into it, we knew it was going to happen. So that was definitely a much different. And yeah, I think definitely I would agree that there's a lot more buzz just due to you being associated, and I think the concept as well is just a bit more of a sell in that regard. Yeah.
No, fair enough. Do you have any questions for me? No, that's fine. We did get some questions I asked on Twitter there earlier. Mostly smart aleck remarks, but that's to be expected. There was one for Joe actually. What's the hardest thing in working with two writers on a project instead of one? Was there
too many cooks?
Well, that is definitely a danger. Like,
no, it's a joke, but it's just more talking. That's all, you know, and that's not necessarily a bad thing either. You know, having more opinions on things is more perspectives, right? So it's you're more likely to uncover any potential problems. Actually, that's the way that I kind of see it. After being initially annoyed, it's like, you know, actually it's kind of cool, right?
It happened just yesterday. There was something I was ready to hand in, and I ran it by you guys, and somebody spotted something. I was like, "Geez, yeah,
yeah." I mean, how cool is it? Right? Having multiple eyes on something, you're almost certainly going to catch something that you didn't see yourself. So, from that perspective,
but I know it can be frustrating because you're like, "Oh, I just want this fucking to be done."
Yeah, I mean, I try not to get into those places in my head, because otherwise it just turns into one big frustration.
I would say, like, I think me and Rory did our best to basically hand you the finished thing.
I mean, if you're talking from that perspective, you guys essentially just drop it off and leave it to me, and there isn't any real back and forth until I've got something to show, you know, which is it's a kind of freedom which I think doesn't really exist in other publishing spaces. So not having anything to compare it to, it would be easy to take that for granted, but I constantly remind myself that this is a pleasure other artists don't enjoy. So I'm very grateful to you both for that kind of freedom. But yeah, I mean, it's to answer the question, it's what I said. It is more discussion for sure, but it's only one more person, you know, and I think it would be, if you had a difficult working relationship between both of you, I can't imagine how difficult that would be. You know, if there were lots of internal disagreements as well as disagreeing with the artist on certain choices, I think that'd be a nightmare. But I mean, from my perspective, this is a very easygoing working relationship. So you know,
I think if anything, I was after a while I was feeling bad that I hadn't really talked to you much, because I've just kind of worked closer with other artists when I've been writing, you know. So, but like you guys had such a good role with Write It in Blood. Like it was clear you didn't really need to do anything. You had a good.
I think it depends on the creative team, right? I mean, some people prefer quiet to work in, and you know, from my perspective, it just requires so much of my energy, and it's not something that ever needed to be said. You know, if more was being asked of me than I could handle energetically, then I would have said something. But that's never been an issue. So I get my head down, draw the thing, turn it in, like make any adjustments as necessary. And that's what I meant about it being ridiculously easygoing. Really, it's a pleasure to do.
Yeah, I'll say that working with you is less hassle when I'm working with myself. Because you never know how someone is. Like some people are more temperamental, some people are more sensitive, some people are more controlling to an unhealthy degree. Some people are great, some people are too quiet, they're not good for correspondence. Some people take longer than they say they're going to be. Like there's the same thing with when I was working with a colorist. Is I basically, like, my background is get the deadline, get it done for the deadline.
Yeah.
Let people know where you are. You know, like I have a good work ethic, you know, and I'm good to work with, I think. When I could see like all these different artists, because a colorist will work with so many different artists, the amount who are completely unreliable, who do not get stuff in when they say they will, who are total dicks about it. Like I just thought everyone was like me, but I realized one of the most useful things or best qualities I have wasn't whether or not I could draw. It was just that, like, I wasn't a twat about things, you know?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I had a similar conversation with someone the other day about how if you had achieved like artistic success at a very early age instead of having life experience first, would you be a complete fuck up in the industry as a result? Like in all the ways that you're talking about, you know, in terms of your ability to you know, negotiate people and, you know, basically not be a complete dick to work with. Would you have developed in that way if you hadn't had some life experience before you'd achieved success?
I strongly feel that you wouldn't. Like I've done crappy jobs, you know, and construction, X, Y, and Z. I'm like, and what was always in my head, I'm like, this isn't what I want to do for the rest of my life.
For sure,
I want to do comics. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to have to work hard at it. I know I'm going to sound old,
and it's just like every other job in that you have to be a professional about it, right? I mean, you can't. I mean, you were saying about not having much discussion, but I'm not going to bring. I'm full of my own personal problems, right? But I'm not going to bring that to my job and lay that on other people. That's got nothing to do with what I'm doing for a job. That's me bringing my personal life into it. Even if it is art related, that's still no one else's problem, right? And I'm certainly not going to bring that into a discussion with people, and certainly not in a work environment. So
because
I treat it as seriously as a job, and you know, maybe not everyone does that. So
I mean, I don't think they do, and you know, I don't sound controversial or anything, but like I think there may be a slight generational aspect to it, because I know people in other professions, and there's younger people coming into like art jobs right out of college, and they just get a job in some kind of artistic field, and they expect things to just kind of be easy. Whereas, like, you know, I think it's pretty good for you to just have a job where you're treated, not an art job necessarily, but like a job that kind of like shows you the real world in a way. Because like we are so lucky to be able to do what we're doing. Like, you know,
absolutely,
we get down all day and just make stories, and you know, hopefully, sales allowing, make a living from it. But it's amazing, you know. And I know it might sound really conservative or something, but there's something to be said for like some character building and professionalism, and
I think personal development, right? I mean, it's
I don't want to generalize. I think there is a generational aspect to it, but there's people in my age who did the same, who who I know who never had a real job and were so just like ridiculously just like how do you exist in the real world? Like never meet deadlines. It's done when it's done, and it's just and but you know, you'd see their career would also falter because of it too, because they're not hitting deadlines, and it just doesn't seem to process like, well, if you don't do the deadlines, then you don't get more work. Like it's in your interest to be professional, you know. But some people aren't wired that way, and maybe they're just not wired that way, or maybe it's like you're saying, they don't. There's a level of life experience that'll force you to take a job more seriously. Yeah, it's a weird one, but I'm very glad that we're working with someone like you who, you know, has the pages in when you say they will, and even if you were like a little late, which I don't think you've ever been, you'd let us know. I think maybe you handed something in on a Monday instead of Friday. You monster.
I don't remember that.
I don't think you did. I don't think you did actually. I just don't want you to seem too perfect.
No, I don't think it is perfect. I think it's doing what you said you're going to do. I mean, and I think that's a life experience thing. If you repeatedly don't do what you say you're going to do, I don't trust you anymore, and therefore I don't want a relationship with you, right? I mean, it's very black and white, but that's the way I'm going to feel, at least, you know.
Like, I feel this to a point where I'm seeing it on like things like social media now, where there's artists who I think are amazing, and the way they kind of talk online, it's just kind of like, I don't think I could trust you to get something in, you know, if you're going on about X, Y, and Z all day long, like you don't seem reliable, you know. And there's definitely something I'm going to consider if I'm like going to think of working with somebody. And
but everyone does things differently, right? And you know, not everyone is going to be so bothered about this stuff, you know. But for me, I want a nice, easygoing, like, you know, I want to work with good people, right?
Yeah, life's hard enough, you know, than making it harder unnecessarily.
Life's hard enough, and like you said, it's a gratitude thing as far as I'm concerned. Like, look how incredibly lucky we are to not have to put on proper clothes every day. Like, you don't have to leave the house. Like, it's a blessing. So you should treat it with that kind of reverence, as far as I'm concerned.
Agreed. There's a question here, which I guess we kind of answered already. It's very interested in how it is for Joe to draw for an artist writer like Dec. How does that feel different from the usual writer artist relationship? And I guess, like we were saying, I don't think that's really been a thing, because we've just kind of had a, like I said, I've worked a little more disconnected.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, it's been pretty hands off, and you certainly haven't art directed me particularly. So that sounds like what the question is asking, right? It sounds like they're asking whether you've tried to, you know, steer things in your direction, which I don't feel honestly, I don't feel like you've been like that. So
well, I've tried not to be like, because there's definitely the temptation, you know, like similarly, like that's not how, like, I feel it's like when I worked with Warren on Injection, there would be things he'd ask for and I would do them, and otherwise I kind of just do what I like. And I feel I tried to, that was a very rewarding experience. So I try and like do the same going forward, you know. So there are specific things like the timestamps or whatever, or there might be a page where it's like I think a great example is that page where we look at different times and Tatsuo and Oscar are having a talk, because we specifically wrote it like 4 panels where they're talking, but you did this kind of fisheye lens thing, which was not in the script, but made it so much cooler, you know.
Yeah,
that's great. Like, that's, you know, a specific thing where, like, you know, we have an idea and you made the idea cooler. Like, that's brilliant, you know. And then there's things like that you just did on your own, which is great from a writer's point of view, because you're like, I just wrote things and then it came back and it looks great, you know. It's the best thing. I know Rory feels the same, but it's the best feeling in the world, especially when you didn't have to draw it. There was another part that was, how do Rory and Dec break down the writing duties? Is it a tight collab from the start, or are there specific tasks per writer?
Do you mind if I take like a 45-second break? I just need to use the loo.
Go for it.
No,
you can carry on if you want.
This is awful. I really shouldn't have eaten dinner before this. I'm just totally in this food coma.
Oh, we won't go too much longer. Like, it's nearly been an hour. I'd say we'll do another like 15-20 minutes.
No, it's fine. I'm just...
Or just relieve yourself mid a call.
Yeah.
I'm assuming this is recording. I'm recording it on on Zoom, and I have never done that before. So,
well, no, it says recording to me in the top.
Yeah,
corner,
I don't know where it's recording to, but sure, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. God, just have this nice couple of. But are we going to go on without Joe, or
Sorry?
will we wait? Are we going to go on without Joe, or will we wait?
You can go. I don't mind. Work away.
Question was.
The question was, how do Rory and Dec break down the writing duties? Is it a tight collab from the start, or are there specific tasks per writer?
So I think it's that. Correct, and jump in whenever you want. But I think it's that we kind of hammer out the main beats of an arc, or
we're literally doing that right now. We're looking at the second arc. What's different is I'm digging more into issue 6 than I have on other issues.
Yeah,
because I had an idea. Interestingly, it's a flip on kind of how we normally work, which is where you dig in more and I'll kind of provide notes. Whereas with this issue, I'm digging in more and you're providing notes, which I kind of like, because I feel like at least it's more balanced that way.
Yeah, just wait until the mountain of notes comes in from me though. So after we break down the kind of main arc, I'll kind of write up a kind of more detailed outline, and we'll kind of bash that back and forth a bit between ourselves and Heather Antos, our editor.
Yeah, I think we do it first, so that at least it's like we're bouncing it back between us, and then Heather will kind of like evaluate, because there's not much point her giving notes and then me giving notes and then her giving, like it don't make much sense.
So then I would kind of take each issue and then break them down into kind of page breakdowns, write my pages, kind of give Dec his scenes or pages. He'd write his, I'd get them back, and then stitch the whole thing together. And then we both probably do a pass over it, and then back to Heather. And then
there'll be like lettering notes afterwards as well, where I might tweak something. I think that's the one thing where I not worry. Sometimes it's just like you just don't want to be constantly tweaking things. I think I might change a word, and like I don't want us to have to be arguing back and forth over like a word necessarily.
No, I know what you mean, and I definitely think more so at the start. I hopefully think I'm getting a bit looser on that.
I think so. Yeah, I think you were. Yeah, at the start was probably a bit more. But then I don't know. There was so much back and forth at the beginning, though.
No, yeah, and it's
and
not
we had
even.
A script before Heather came on board. We had a different script. We had a script that like wasn't as in good shape, But I think the back and forth we'd kind of ironed out that process, and then when Heather came in, it was kind of smoother.
I think that's one of the things of having almost like a committee of 3 at some points, when you have to really pick your battles on what you want to, what hills you want to die on.
I work with Heather on stuff, and she gives me good notes, and I incorporate them. But like, there's a point where sometimes I feel you're on one end and Heather's on another, and I'm in the middle.
Yeah,
like
definitely
stitching it together. But I mean, I don't think that's bad. I think it like I said, it just makes everything a little bit sharper. But it is probably as much work doing a book on your own, with all the back and forth. But I do think it's kind of just added an extra sizzle, I think, to the scripts. Actually, I'm curious, Joe, do the scripts for Time Before Time seem different at all to Write It in Blood? Do you read them and go like, there's an added element of genius to this, like just
No,
yeah,
be perfectly honest.
not
lacking in genius, but lacking in difference for sure. They're very straightforward, which is how I like it. There's if whoever writes it has an idea for what kind of shot to use, they'll put it in, but otherwise it's very much like left to my interpretation, really. And yeah, just
like I have a scene I came up with yesterday, and I'm excited to write it, but like I don't know if Rory will like it. I have this like, I think I know, I have an idea of how you're going to draw it. I think it'll look really cool.
Yeah,
like I don't know yet if Rory's going to like it or not. So that might
is it spoilery? Can you tell me what it is?
It's no, it's not spoilery. I just it's the opening of issue 7, and it's like an action scene, say.
Okay.
I just had an idea of just how to open it in a quiet way, and then, you know, explode things. But like, you know, I need to wait for like Rory's going to break the issue down, and then we'll see how much space we have, and then, you know, because I don't want to start writing until I know. I'm not going to write like 10 pages when it's only going to be a three-page scene because we have all this other stuff to do. So
yeah.
But I mean, you know, that's always my worry, is like I'll have something I really like and Rory will shoot it down. But I don't actually think that's really ever happened, you know.
I'm trying to think. Well, like,
I sent you an idea today for something.
Better than I would if it was.
Yeah, I sent you an idea for something today, and like you were like, "Yeah, sounds cool."
Yeah.
You know, so like, there's always the worry of like, I don't know about that, but that hasn't really happened. And if it did happen, I would take it more seriously because it's not something that like Rory would do all the time. You know, if Rory was drawing a line on something, I wouldn't just dismiss it as him being, you know, difficult, because that's not something he does. So at least you know when to take somebody seriously, you know.
Have you guys let people know how far along we are with the book?
Yeah, I think we said in other interviews, haven't we?
Yeah, no, I think we definitely. I've definitely said it in other interviews.
Yeah, so. Yeah, we're for the benefit of anybody who hasn't seen any of the other press we've been doing. So we're currently breaking down the first one's all done, like it's all drawn and colored and lettered and everything. And we're breaking. Rory's doing he's broken down like a lot of the second volume, and we're doing something different for issue 6, which I'm really excited about. So yeah, we're just kind of nailing a lot of that down. We're in a difficult position where the idea is there and we've dug in on it, and now there's so much more to dig into, but like we don't know if we'll like survive to issue 11, you know.
Yeah, like for instance, that idea Dec mentioned that he said to me today is for that will third volume.
Yeah, that'll be the third volume if it happens, you know.
So that's really, I can be polite about that because, you know, who knows if it'll even happen.
It's like going like, sure, great.
Yeah, great one, Dec.
Yeah, it'll be an argument for later. But no, I mean, and it is like, that's the thing, is because me and Rory had to talk a while ago about the second volume, and I was so buzzed afterwards because, you know, you two manage your expectations to a degree. You know, we were working on the pitch. Would they even get accepted? And it got accepted. It's like, will we last past issue 5? So we had to kind of write to a place where if we had to end it, we could. I think though that like, I think me and Rory are kind of just acknowledging the fact that like we're not ending it at issue 11. Like, I don't think it's going to happen. Like, I think we're digging into it so much now that you can't just like end it. You know, the plan was to have a trap door that if we're stuck, we can just end it. I'm not sure we're going to be able to do that. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, Rory.
I mean, we can see close to the time, but I think like, I don't think it's sustainable for us to every 5 issues have to try and build an ending, because firstly, that's a fuck ton of extra work we may not need to do.
Yeah.
But then also it kind of, in a way, it's almost chopping the legs out from under us prematurely by kind of narrowing the scope a little bit when we should.
Like if there's something you want to invest in,
yeah,
you know, you don't want to reveal it in the next issue because it kind of loses weight. You know, when we were doing Injection, there's like at the end of that first volume, there's this kind of big revelation, and you could have done that at the end of issue 1, and it would have been really cool, but really had more weight when you were able to just kind of like slow boil that for a while and then really hit it. And it's the benefit of long form storytelling of a longer, you know, a longer story, is to do that and not knowing if you can. It's really frustrating. But I mean, I'm optimistic though, like, and I don't tend to be optimistic. Like we don't know how the book's going to do, but like anyone I've sent it to who would just be straight with me has been really complimentary about it. And I sent an issue to a retailer and they were like, I can't wait for the next one. So I sent them the second one. They're like, oh my God, I can't wait for the third one. I sent it the third one. They're like, oh, they loved it, you know, which I think is a good sign that it's a book that will be rewarding month to month. Anyway, that's the plan.
Are we all meant to like heartily cheer?
Yeah.
I would just look. I expect a certain level of acknowledgement and respect.
And enthusiasm. Yeah.
Let me see. Were you inspired by any previous time travel stories? I would say not really. I like Looper. Looper was for me a starting point, but it wasn't like. It was of that genre, but it was like I liked the aesthetic a lot, and I liked how grounded it was. I haven't been putting any like other time travel stuff in there myself anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I like a lot of time travel stuff, like Doctor Who and stuff, but I think the approach we're taking is kind of different to a lot of other time travel stuff, in that it's kind of, it's a time travel book, but it's time travel is not the foreground element, I suppose. Or the time travel is not the story, it's just a method of transportation.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, it's not made to be a huge deal. Characters don't talk about it like it's a massive deal. They're not going back to there's no massive ramifications for going back. You're just delivering a package, basically, a package of people going backwards, or forwards. So yeah, it's definitely not, it's high concept, but it's kind of like, real low tech high concept.
Yeah, it's lo-fi high concept.
Yes. But no, if you're expecting Back to the Future, this is not it. Do you know what I mean?
And look, that stuff is great. I
love it too. But it's totally not that kind of story. Narrowly avoiding sleeping with your mum is not going to happen in this book. So
no avoiding it.
Had a mouthful of water, you bite.
Hope we edit that one out.
No, I'll stay in.
Hope your mum's not listening.
My mum wouldn't mind. Wait, the joke. She wouldn't
mind. Wow.
Please.
Wow. Dig in the hole.
I think we're going to have to get you off the book deck. I don't think we can be associated with this.
All of a sudden, I need to be...
Get an email for an image, right now.
So asking, was there something that inspired you to write a time travel story? I know it's more than that, but how did this story come to life in your head? My memory's a little foggy, but I know that Rory had been kind of like talking about something much bigger, and then when he brought it kind of more down to a crime story, things were clicking with me more. And I think I remember suggesting that treating time travel like geography. So I remember kind of having that. I was thinking a lot about borders and immigration and how simplistic these arguments always are, and things are very, very complicated. And I liked the idea of what is the ultimate border? And it would be time, you can't go back. Well, what if that wasn't the issue? And how, when people are desperate to go to a better world, what if it was literally another, a whole other world, a whole other, take geography out of culture and replace it with time, those are just kind of rough things I was thinking about at the time. And if I recall anyway, that's what I contributed at one stage. Rory, is that right?
My memory of it is a bit foggy. I think when I came back to definitely the smuggling aspect was there, but maybe the different territories thing wasn't. But yeah, we'd have to go back through the email chain, I think.
Well, I think we did it on Skype, so we'll never know.
Yeah. I don't want to record the whole thing just for future legal.
Just for legal reasons.
Time, I think it was when I was thinking, let's go hard sci-fi because of Rory's background in sci-fi stories, and I really do like sci-fi, and I wanted to do a non-crime thing because I had done these little Irish crime graphic novels. I wanted to do something different, but as the conversations went, I think Rory suggested bringing it down to the street level, and it just I just remember getting way more invested in it. Plus, we are basically writing a crime story, I guess, but like the genre elements make you do things that you just couldn't do in a straight-laced story, you know, and like, you know, the fantastical backgrounds you get to draw are more interesting than, I mean, well, it depends. I actually like drawing really like plain backgrounds, you know. It's my one thing about bog bodies is I kind of wish I drew it, because like all backgrounds, it's just night sky.
I'm the exact opposite.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If I can make up like 90% of it, then I'm very happy.
Well, when I lived in the countryside when I was younger, I was like, this sucks. I hate this. I hate drawing it. I hate looking at it. And now I would prefer draw a rock than I would like a robot.
Yeah, rocks are fun. But,
yeah, rocks are fun.
But yeah, like skies, like New York, that's awful. Like I can't imagine it.
Well, it's stuff like I've done stuff like that in superhero comics anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was the original nugget, and it just kind of fine-tuned down there. Like it is weird. Normally, again, I'd be talking to an artist more about the idea, but you were really you weren't involved when we were doing that, so it was just basically a thought experiment between me and Rory.
Well, and to begin with, it was a handful of pages that we were going for, right? So it was not as sort of broad a scope as what we've ended up doing, because as you say, it was kind of unknown whether it was even going to get picked up. Because if my memory serves me right, this was pitched like when COVID hit, right?
Actually, yeah,
I'm sure it was like
no, it was
right?
COVID. Yeah, COVID. No, you're dead right. COVID had happened, and from what I've been hearing, Image weren't actually even taking stuff because there was all these financial things. But
I mean, my assumption was because of COVID. I mean, looking around at what the comic industry was doing at that time was just like, well, I mean, I can just write that off because that is not going to happen. Like, no publisher is going to greenlight anything right now. So I've got to find something else to do. Do you know what I mean? That was definitely on my mind at the time.
I mean, look, me too, man. I had a Marvel book that just disappeared as I was working on it, you know. Everybody was kind of trying to figure out what was going to work. But we knew, I think we had a couple of aces up our sleeves, really, I think, by pitching it when we did. And I mean, plus we had it already. I mean, we didn't do the pitch after COVID happened. We had been
that's right.
working for ages, fine-tuning it and stuff. But another question here.
Jesus, Jack, the light on your face is intense. Like that is.
That's like candlelight. Yeah.
I'm gazing at like a glorious sunshine right now. I live on the top of an apartment complex, and there's always lovely views. So yeah, now I'm probably looking pretty sun-kissed right now. Except I'm going blind at the same time. Actually, yeah, I can't see the screen. I just look directly at the sun. Gary asks, what have you learned from the other during this process, other than Cork is greater than Claire? Well, that's just slander.
You already knew that, though, didn't you?
Cork has I'm sorry about this, Rory. Cork needs to get over itself fairly lively, all right? It's not as great as it thinks it is. It's great. I really love Cork. I love going there. But there's no other county in the country that has a much bigger, aggrandized view of itself. Maybe Dublin. Dublin does do that.
I can absolutely concede that, but it's still better than Clare.
Disagree. Because we have even the names of our towns they're just better. It's like our villages, like
the names of your towns. That's
the Cork ones are Ballykiss, Mungle, whatever. Like they no.
Kiss your mother town.
What was? But have you learned any? What have you learned from the other during this process? Is there any? It's a hard no.
Nothing. That I never want to co-write again.
I don't know if I would want to co-write again, but I that's not because I'm not enjoying this process, just because it is actually a lot of work.
Yeah, no, it is. It is.
I've got a question that sort of bounces off that. Would you write something else together? Not co-writing with someone else, but just co-writing, because you've got that experience now. You know how each other work. Do you think if you did come up with a concept for something else, do you think you could bounce off and do something together again?
I would.
Yeah, personally. No, I think we definitely.
I'm basically asking whether you still like each other. It's in a roundabout way.
That's actually a very separate question, Joe.
Joe, that presupposes we liked each other to begin with.
It opens up a can of worms.
Well, I mean, I think that what I kind of learned as a writer, because I am a little insecure with it, like, because I don't have a huge amount of experience. I'm cocky when it comes to drawing, you know. And I will say one thing, which I it's not just you, but it's other artists too. It's like the level of I'm always really impressed with your character work and the amount of attention you put in, like background characters and things.
Thank you, man.
Sometimes, you know, when you're drawing, especially through superhero comics and stuff, you do rely on a shorthand to get stuff done, and it takes extra effort to stop yourself from just like looking like the same thing over and over again. And it kind of reminds me to kind of, you know, like, you're not necessarily my competition as such, but like when I see somebody who's like earlier in their career putting so much work in, it's a good reminder, like, to not rest on your laurels, you know.
Yeah.
Which is it's different. I mean, it happens with like Gavin on Bog Bodies too, but just, yeah, all the world building in here is it's and your professionalism and everything puts me to shame. But I, as a writer, I found it interesting. I tend to kind of like lean into theme and think about plot later, and I feel like Rory is different. Rory like really develops plot, like a lot of plot, and I think that's what made me a little worried at first, that like I wasn't like writing enough, when I realized like that's just like Rory's really good at that, and it's what he likes doing, clearly, you know. And I think it works for both of us. Like I wouldn't have time to be digging in the way that he is, and he's very good at what he's doing, and I think I'm good at what I do. So I think it's worked nicely. So I actually I'd like to do something with Rory again afterwards. I think he shouldn't. I think he should just do his own stuff, and otherwise he's just gonna start resenting me. But
he hasn't already.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I have enjoyed the process. Like, I have liked making something that isn't all on me, and I have like.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, that was the perspective of where my question was coming from, is because it's less work for both of you to write something together, right? I mean, granted, it sounds like Rory is doing more of the plot work, but it's still like takes some of the edge off of each other, and it could be fun if you come up with the right idea, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm blabbing on here, so feel free to bump in, Rory. But like I would say that like we've managed to cover a lot of different ground, especially with things like promotion and stuff like that, like emails, and like this is already so much work. But like if I was doing it on my own, you know, same with Rory. So it's nice. It's been nice to spread the load that way, and it's been nice to have stuff to bounce off of. Like anything I've been writing the last while, I've kind of bounced off Rory, just to kind of, you know, I've weirdly been collaborating him in a lot of ways, just as a sounding board. So like Time Before Time has just been another example of that. And if the book stopped and I wasn't doing it anymore, I think I might miss it.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely been like, I know, Dec, you're saying that you like, let's say, a lot of the grunt work on the writing is me, but then you are also serving in a kind of, you're probably handling a lot more of the producer. I know that isn't an official comics term, but like a lot of the production side of things that like is also takes up an absolute bomb of time, like. And I think that's definitely one thing from this, that whatever about doing a graphic novel, the sheer amount that's involved in an ongoing series is kind of insane. So like actually co-writing an ongoing to begin with has been really valuable in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, it is work that I haven't done a lick of drawing today. It was all email. I was emailing like artists about covers and some other stuff, and you know, the Kickstarter stuff. And the amount of, it's one thing I found really hard as an artist was I kind of miss the days where I was just drawing at Marvel and I just sit down and draw all day and not have to worry about anything. And owning my career as such, as a writer / artist or whatever, has brought so much administration and stuff that is very frustrating. But it's also empowering to own your own work in a way that I hadn't before, you know. So there's, when people like talk about they dislike work for hire stuff, work for hire is like, that's gotten Time Before Time made, you know, like the money I'm being able to do, like work for hire stuff, which I genuinely enjoy, is great, and I can afford to like invest in creator on projects like this. It's you know, it enables doing work that I own, that you own, that Roy owns, and that's great. Sorry, actually, I think I just started blabbing there. Got to start, the sun's literally setting now, and it looks amazing. Yeah, I'm sorry, I've totally lost my train of thought there.
No, I think that pretty much answered the question.
I think I'll try to wrap this up because I don't want to take up more of your time. How did the idea come to be? Like, did one writer have an idea and bring it to the other, or did the idea just formulate during a conversation between you? It would be that the latter, I think, is fair, isn't it, Rory?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the idea was, let's do a book. You know, and then the rest kind of flowed in like I'm having flashbacks for Skype conversations. It's like, when will this book ever come out?
Yeah,
you know?
Will this book ever come out?
Yeah, you know, how many years are we talking? And
are we just going to be on Skype forever and ever?
Yeah, but yeah, I think it just kind of it slowly ironed out between the back and forth.
Yeah,
not like, I've got this amazing idea, let's, you know, X, Y, and Z. It just it came out of like wanting to make something, and if we were going to make something, what do we want it to be, and what do we not want it to be, and you know, that can actually be quite helpful. I think that might be. Someone's asking how far we planned out for this series. James is asking, and we've planned as far as 11, as in like actually, you know, we know we can get to that. But if we can get the idea, I think
we also have the last issue, but it's kind
Yeah.
of how long it takes us to get to that last issue is the thing.
Yeah, I think we had a set plan that was like optimistic. If we get approved, it would be great if we could do X. And now that we've actually done a chunk of that, it's like, well, it would actually be great if we could like take X and like really delve into X and make it like X, Y, Z, you know, because the potential for stories is really interesting. So, I mean, and also how much Joe wants to draw is good before he gets sick of us. But it's just been an idea that the more we've tapped into it, just like it's like an atom bomb. There's more stuff that's kind of come out, which is really interesting, and just things we could do that isn't being done in other comics is kind of cool. But yeah, it comes down to like if we have a readership that'll support it, then this could be, you know, a good few books. And
so keep buying, James.
Well, I mean, yeah, and it depends. I mean, like, I know Joe, you have other things you want to do as well. Like, it's a lot of work, but
it is. But I have to say, just, you know, creatively, I mean, every issue is different, and as an artist, that is, as you know, that's amazing, because it's just, it always keeps my attention. Do you know what I mean? Both in the story and what I'm being challenged to do on a monthly basis. So it's yeah, it's really cool from that point of view. It's always, yeah, it's so far it's been something fresh and something engaging each time around. So yeah, I mean, I do have my own stuff that I'm doing, but it's just, you know, if the book were to do, you know, if it were to do well enough to carry on, I would carry on drawing it. It's just, I can do my own stuff around it.
I've got that recorded now.
Yeah, signed, written contract.
It's contractually binding.
It is what it is. I mean, look, I mean, I'm no fool. If it sells, like, you know, very well, it's not like I'm going to be doing badly off of it. So,
and it's weird. Like, the development of this has been so long, and it all rests on like, will it sell enough to survive?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
You just can't know that. It's mad, you know. And that comes from somebody who's been an artist who's been like, you know, when we did Injection with Warren, like, that was fine. You know, Warren Ellis' book was going to sell. This is different, you know. I haven't known if the thing I do would be good and would find an audience to a mainstream audience like this. So it's been interesting. And I mean, signs are looking good. Like, it's great to see. I just don't want to, you know, I don't want to make an assumption before we know anything, you know.
No, for sure.
Oh, yeah, but okay, the sun is gone down, so I'm going to wrap this up before it's dark. I think that was it. Somebody was asking what's it like working with Chris O'Halloran, and what dirt does he have on you?
We can't talk about that.
Yeah, Chris probably has too much dirt. It is actually amazing though. Like, Chris, I remember Chris showed me his portfolio, like drawing portfolio. Wasn't very good. So it's great that he's coloring. That's all I can say. But no, I love it because I've seen Chris kind of start out coloring and seeing what he's doing now, and especially on your work, Joe. I think I think like there's a coloring book aspect to it because you have all these big shapes. Like color choice, I think, is so important as opposed to like, you know, special effects or rendering or you know, energy fields or something like so. And it's I don't know. I just he's making some great decisions.
No, absolutely. I mean, it is the job. Like with an artwork like mine, or you know, like that piece he posted a few weeks ago. You know, the Jean-Paul Leon one that he did. I mean, it's the same sort of thing. It's just like a lot of the value work is done, right?
Yeah.
You don't need to do anything in that regard. So your choices are paramount. And yeah, he makes some really interesting and very different choices, and yeah, it's very cool to see.
Great. Well, I think that's all the questions we have. We've been at this a while, so I'll let you go. Yeah, anything else you want to say or do, or I don't know. I got nothing.
Whilst recording or not recording.
Okay. I'll stop the recording. So, but yeah, for anybody watching, thanks for sticking around. I hope this was interesting. I love shit like this. Like I love listening to. I'm in the middle of a word balloon interview with Ed Brubaker, and like I just love like listening to creators and talking about their, you know, having their brains fixed. So I hope this has been interesting for somebody else. And yeah, time for time. By the time this is posted, I think issue 1 will be out. And it'll be great because there's stuff we can't talk about, that like things in the story we can't talk about, that I'm just dying for people to actually read it. Like, so yeah, thanks again, and sure, yeah, I don't know. Good luck.